Hello there, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Badger Talk Podcast. My name is Derry Harris, and I'll be your host today, live from my basement in Leesburg here. Why am I in a basement, you ask? That's exactly what we'll be discussing today. But first, joining me today are the Round 1 rookies of the ATCS Early Career Coaching Program, scattered throughout the ATCS universe. Starting off with
Sam Terrell, live from my closet/office in DC.
Hey, I'm Corinne Paisley, and I am usually on my porch, but it's a little rainy out, so I'm just at my kitchen table in Herndon, Virginia.
Hi, this is Sean Nick coming in live from our construction field office off of I-66.
And I'm Joe Cooper. I'm in my guest bedroom on the basement floor of my house in Baltimore, Maryland.
All right, so let's now jump into our topic, the coronavirus pandemic. In March 2020, the world shut down and the virus spread around the world, and businesses and schools shut down everywhere, and everyone had to try and navigate a new world with virtual communication and stay-at-home orders, and just trying to figure out how to stay safe and still function. So to start our discussion, Sam will be talking about the transition to working from home and all the unique challenges and opportunities that has brought each of us.
Thanks, Derry. So I'm here in my apartment in DC, but I'm actually based out of our Timonium office. At the start of the pandemic, I lived in Baltimore City, but working from home, a new flexible work schedule, I was actually able to decide to move for a year and check out a neighboring city. So I moved to DC, but I still work out of the Timonium office. So that's been a big benefit of working from home. So before we get into some of the challenges, what is something that you guys have enjoyed about working from home?
I think just to kick it off, being home, being able to spend time with my wife and, my two new babies, being able to help out more. I think it's, really unique for, someone who works to be able to, watch their babies grow up the first year of their life or so.
That is awesome. I love being outside, so I was able to run, go hike, take an hour off in the random part of the day and go hike, see my cat right in front of me, do some yoga. I mean, just all of the things. I just loved it.
Yeah, I would say probably being able to spend more time with my wife, instead of coming back to these field offices to do the reports and sitting in my truck, being able to utilize my home office. And my wife being a elementary school teacher, she was working from home a considerable amount. So being able to spend some time with her.
I am so surprised that nobody said savings. I'm saving on gas. I'm saving
Oh,
on
wow.
I'm saving on dry cleaning. I mean, there is nothing better than waking up, taking a shower, getting dressed, and you're at work, right? Like, that's amazing. That's amazing. So much time saved. That is what I love the most.
And I, at the beginning of this, went to my parents' house. So for 3 months, I had my mom buying the groceries. I saved a lot of money that way, so I can't complain.
Yeah, I was going to say all my money was going to Uber Eats, Whole Foods delivery. Like, I wasn't saving.
Yeah, I've been snacking a lot more.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. So in contrast, one of the hardest things for me, at least, was taking meetings. So in both apartments that I've lived in during the pandemic, it's kind of a close quarters with a bunch of roommates. So taking meetings in common areas or even my bedroom was a little hard trying to coordinate to get a quiet space. And in my last apartment, one of my roommates was actually a night nurse. So trying to take meetings and be quiet while she's trying to sleep to go take care of people during this pandemic was definitely a struggle. So what are some of the hardest things that you guys have come across?
I think just going off that, weird sleep schedules with, two babies being born during the pandemic. It's, been pretty hectic. And just having to kind of help out during the day because we couldn't send them to daycare right away, and having to make up work. And when they're up at night, I'm up, and there were nights I did work at night because why not? So, and that's been the other thing, just kind of the whole work-life balance is all blended together.
Definitely.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. You were just up 24/7.
Yeah, it's hard to separate things.
Oh man. I just have, I hate to say it and follow Derry on that, but I've had zero issues. So I'm just gonna pass and move on to the next.
I would say the most difficult part would we actually, my wife and I bought a house, like a fixer upper, right kind of as the pandemic kind of hit, and so we had to move out to fix our stuff up. So I was working remotely. So, staying in the in-laws basement, trying to get my office squared away, trying to balance that with working out of my truck. The technology aspect, like you were saying, Sam, for meetings, that was definitely the hardest part by far.
So I have been lucky enough to have a space. My wife and I both are working from home. We have a couple of spare bedrooms that we can dedicate to work, and so that's been great. But you guys mentioned meetings, and one of the most difficult parts, at least for me, of this pandemic and this lockdown remote working has been that no one has to go anywhere to attend a meeting anymore. So I've had days, and they're not infrequent, where I am literally in meetings back to back from 7:30 till 5:30 without a break. And that is a lot to deal with. Before the pandemic, everybody recognized that in order to get from place to place, people need time. And so, fewer meetings, you only schedule a meeting when you really had to. Now, because it's so easy, it's a few clicks. You're literally in meetings all day long. That's tough, but it works. Amazing.
Hey, and the bathroom's closer at home.
Hey, I actually took a meeting with Corinne once from the bathroom because it was the one quiet place in my house at the time.
She's like sitting on the ground. I'm like, can you do a video on this? Is hilarious.
Yeah. So for me, I'd have to say the same. Once I had my internet and VPN set up, I had a pretty smooth transition, especially because my work is so independent. But I know for someone like Corinne in marketing, you have to communicate a lot more on a regular basis. And Joe, you have a lot of people under you that you have to communicate with. So how has your team, I guess, kept in touch during the pandemic with, like Joe said, everyone's in meetings more often now. So how has that worked out for all of you guys?
Yeah, I think my team did really well. And I work with people in every office. So it's been really nice. I feel like I've gotten to know people even better because we can video chat and talk and message and yeah, so it's been great, and I think everyone's adapted really well to what we've had to do because we had to do it. So I think it's been great.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that because it's so easy to connect now. I mean, via Teams chat message or email or phone or a video call, it's a lot easier to keep in touch. And so, you get that ping and you respond to it and you say, hey, you got a couple of minutes? And they go, yeah. And suddenly you're face to face. All my folks are kind of spread out all over the state. It used to take me 3 days to visit all of them in person, but now I can kind of during the course of a week hit them all, and it's not too bad. So, and then there's the other folks I work with who are in all those meetings I was just talking about. So we get to kind of see each other a lot more often. I think that works out pretty well.
So I know we've all talked about working from home a lot, but that's actually not an option for everyone. So my next question is for Sean. How has field work changed as a result of the pandemic?
Yeah, so and I know Joe can absolutely echo this as well. I think some things have changed and some things have stayed the same. The biggest changes I think we've seen is our on-site meetings. Where traditionally we would go out to an area of concern, and there would be 10 people gathered around a set of plans. Uh, during the pandemic, of course, we couldn't do that. The 6 foot distance. Teamed with the loud machinery on a construction project is not conducive to effective meetings in the field. So your biggest change would be the implementation of, Teams and, over the web meetings. Um, and then, of course, PPE was a big, big, big deal. Face masks constantly, gloves, and then still remaining in compliance with the typical hard hat, vest, and stuff. So it was just a new element of kind of health and hygiene into our PPE.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to add to that. When the pandemic first started, it was crazy for the folks in the field. Like they still had to go to work. There were projects ongoing, and they still had to be out there doing what they had to do. So we kind of scrambled around trying to find masks and hand sanitizer and surface uh, disinfectant so that they could be out there and be out there as safely as possible. I remember we were looking for hand sanitizer and couldn't find it. There was a shortage, right? And so everybody's sourcing hand sanitizer from distillers and these random places that you could get them. And here I am with a 5 gallon bucket from a whiskey distiller, in my truck. Right? And I'm driving around and I'm filling up water bottles for guys so that they can have some of this stinky hand sanitizer. It was crazy. It was crazy, but we made it work.
Definitely.
And that hand sanitizer does not smell good either.
You know?
Well, it depends
No.
on who you are, I guess. But yeah.
It smells horrible.
Yeah.
So in related to that, I know in the field you work with companies outside of ATCS, and I know some might have had different standards or even the ability to have the same PPE. So how did you, I guess, work in conjunction with other companies that might have had different equipment?
Yeah, that's a good question. We had to be my particular role in independent assurance for the project here. We have to be cognizant of various amounts of subcontractors as well as the general contractor, and how they implement their own uh, COVID restrictions within their company. So we always had to stay vigilant to ensure that, if a crew that just showed up for the first time on the job, we had to just, try to help them out and make sure that they had the proper stuff. And if they didn't, take that initiative to, notify the proper people. So I think more of just kind of that foresight and being vigilant for other people, I think was the biggest thing.
Sean, did you find that folks were mostly cooperative in that effort?
Yeah, I absolutely. I think it did. And, a positive aspect of that was that it kind of got ingrained. So being vigilant for other people's health became a habit. And I know that was the case for our team with independent assurance, but I think it translated into a bigger thing where now it's not a hesitation to call the general contractor safety manager and say, hey, here's an issue, here's a potential issue, here's our recommendations. So, but for the most part, yes, they were absolutely cooperative for sure.
Excellent.
That's good.
That's awesome.
So now that we've talked a little bit about our own journeys, Corinne is going to talk a little bit about the early career coaching program that brought us all together to begin with during this pandemic.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, so that's what's really cool about this group and the podcast is that's how we came together was through this career coaching program that started, I guess, 3 months after the pandemic. And so we the first time this group actually ever got together was last week at dinner, the whole group. And that was really cool. So, I think starting this program virtually in some ways kind of brought maybe the pairings closer together, because you could connect anywhere. But, it could be the communication was also a little lost too. I mean, humans need face-to-face interaction. So that's a necessity for us. How did the communication efforts improve with being virtual, or did they decline? And if they did, how did they decline?
I think, just speaking for kind of me and my coach, Michael, we definitely have to make more of an effort up front to communicate. And we actually have like an app and things set up to kind of record, a to-do list and kind of tasks, because we can't just kind of pass each other in the hallway and say, hey, have you looked at that? Have you done this yet? So just kind of holding each other accountable. And, I think that really helped. But I mean, yeah, it was definitely nice just kind of having a meeting with, a friendly face every week. If it was a tough week or a busy week or something, and just being able to kind of chat and, something more casual.
Definitely. I know for me, Albert and I were at different offices anyway. So
yeah,
starting this program virtually versus how we're going to continue is we can coordinate meetings together in person, but the majority of our meetings will definitely be on Teams. So
Yeah, the same would absolutely go for myself and Brennan. With her being on the southern part of the state, and then kind of in the North Carolina area. She occasionally does make it up here to Herndon, but yeah, the majority of our communication was based on the telephone because I'm always on the road, and then when we could in the evenings, we would get on Teams to do stuff. So there wasn't a tremendous amount of strain on on that front.
Yeah, my rookie is in Herndon, and I think the whole program is probably benefits a lot from our reliance on technology now.
yeah,
Because before it would have been unheard of to kind of have a relationship solely through your computer screen, but now it's just normal. Everybody does it all the time, and nobody thinks twice about it. I think the whole program is benefiting from that.
Yeah, I love being able to be virtual because even if my coach is maybe busy, I can still bother him on Teams. Did you read this chapter? Or I just read this, check this out. So I like this.
I think kind of
But
with the teams and stuff, there's kind
yeah,
of like a record now more.
Right.
So, like the kind of unintended consequence, we were looking back the other day, like, oh, look at all the things that we've done and we've accomplished.
Neat.
that is true. Joe, were you going to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say, just on the topic of a record, I've been using, I don't know if you guys have ever used the wiki function in Teams. Pretty neat. Wiki promotes the
Oh,
wiki function of a Teams group, and it's pretty cool. You can kind of link things to each other and have notes on various different topics, and it's a nice way to keep track of things.
another thing about technology that makes it great. I think everyone's kind of hit on the fact that we could connect almost better virtually. And I think throughout this first year of the program, so the four of us were all in the first program, and then Joe, our special guest, is now a coach in the second round. So that's really cool. But I think having this program at ATCS is sort of more important than ever. And throughout the whole year of this program, I keep going back to the word belonging. Like, it gives us this sense of belonging. Someone's kind of like our cheerleader in the corner all the time. And can everyone kind of hit on what that word means to you?
Yeah, I guess I can start. I think, especially last year, at least in the Herndon design team, there was a lot of people going, a lot of new people coming in. and actually I went to the office the other day and kind of met some of my new coworkers in person for the first time, which was weird because I've been talking to them so much on the phone and things. But yeah, just kind of having the meetings with Michael and the meetings, with the group as a whole kind of helped because, it wasn't just another work meeting or, I love my wife, but being stuck at home with 2 babies all the time can get old. So it's kind of nice to have, other people to talk to as well. And, that small talk.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I can speak to this because before the pandemic, I was mainly working at a project office, and it was such a big project office that I mainly worked on my actual tasks with people from other companies. So I feel like this program has allowed me to meet so many different people at the company, the rookies, the coaches, and then my coach Albert has introduced me and set up meetings where I can just talk to other people at the company. So it helped me really feel more engaged with the company and more knowledgeable about other people's positions. I had no clue what some people did here at ATCS, so I definitely feel that sense of belonging.
Yeah, I absolutely have to echo what Sam said. My day-to-day activities, the majority of them include coordination with various amounts of people, our clients and then our clients' clients. And, the biggest thing was I get involved with so many people that have different levels of experience. And this program, kind of brought a group of us together that all had roughly the same amount of experience, and we could all, have various commonalities that we could find. And yeah, I found that very beneficial. It's kind of turned into a big family. So.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting that you use the word family. So at first, I want to correct Corinne. I was an assistant coach in the first round, so I've
That's true.
been here all along.
My bad.
So, but when you guys say belonging, I think that's interesting because to me it evokes motivation, right? And one of the things that motivates me to do the daily grind is being part of something bigger, right? My perspective as an assistant coach and a manager, doing the early career coaching program and things like that and mentoring kind of helps me to feel more a part of something larger than the work we all do every day, right? And that for me is a little bit of motivation, and I like it a lot. It's that something extra that makes you feel like it's worth doing what you're doing.
Oh yeah, I love that. That's perfect. Well, we just talked about communication and belonging, how that was affected by the pandemic or got even better. We're going to dive deeper. I'm going to pass it over to Sean. He's going to talk about being a leader in the pandemic and leadership and all that good stuff with Joe.
Thanks, Corinne. Thanks. Yeah, so first off, I'd like to welcome Joe Cooper. Welcome to the podcast, and we appreciate you being here with us today. So yeah, a couple questions that I have, regarding management and leadership during that pandemic era. So back last year, when COVID restrictions were in full swing, the medium in which managers were able to lead their employees changed significantly. Looking back, do you believe this had a positive or a negative effect on some common leadership styles?
I want to say it depends. I mean, that's a really wishy-washy answer, but depending on how you normally lead is really going to affect how not being able to sort of touch people locally is going to change the way you lead, right? And everybody has a slightly different style. Some people are very hands-on, some people are micromanagers, some people like to delegate things, like there's lots of different ways, and most people kind of have a combination of things that works for them. It really depends a lot on your personality and the capability and personality and talents of the folks you manage, right? One of the things that's interesting is that most of my staff work in the field, and so in a sense they've always been remote. And so very little changed when we went on lockdown, except that I would be calling them from my home instead of the office, right? So, but then I have some folks who actually live and work in the office, right? And how we communicated changed a lot. No longer, could you kind of note something or ask a question as they walk by your office, or grab them and go out for lunch. You can't do that anymore. So you have to maybe follow up by email or send a chat, or let's set up a meeting, right? Um, in that sense, things got a little bit more structured. In other words, if you don't have some structure, things are going to slip through the cracks, because you no longer have those impromptu little places where you can touch base. So I'm going to say that, at least in my case, my management got a little more structured as a result of the pandemic, and that's probably a good thing. We're moving back to the office soon, so those impromptu meetings will occur a little bit more often. So we'll see how that changes things moving forward.
That's interesting. So do you think, looking forward, in the future, when you do go back to the office, do you think that the majority of the office and the majority of the managers will see like this more hybrid leadership style from those lessons they learned?
Absolutely. I mean, I think one of the things that I've learned from the pandemic is that technology is not as hard as people think it is. It works a lot better than it used to. And so we need to make much better use of it than we had before the pandemic. And we are, right? And so, but we're moving into this sort of, some people are at work, some people are remote, some people, we're moving to a new way of doing things. And I think if we take that into account, and we start to accommodate the flexibility that gives people, like Corinne said, she likes to go out for a run, and Sam's got someone who sleeps during the day, right? So like, and Derry's got a couple of kids who keep him up all night. So, but that's okay, right? We're learning that that's okay. Everybody has a different situation, and we're all still getting it done, right? And so I think we need to take that into account and make those changes that kind of benefit everyone.
Interesting. That's good.
I love
Yeah.
that.
So what's interesting is, since the beginning of this discussion, we've picked up on a couple key things that I've found. Number one is efficiency, and number two is effectiveness, um, through these mediums. So, with that said, do you see our clients' expectations, for the management of their projects? Do you see that taking a major shift through the lessons they learn? And so, on the I-66 outside the Beltway project, we utilize PlanGrid,
Mhm.
as a medium, right, to connect and
Sure.
to manage our plan sheets that are ever changing, and and so forth. So do you feel that their expectations are going to change, and do you think that these platforms will become more of a requirement?
I think it already has, and at least with the agencies that I've been working with, these were starting to become a requirement even before the pandemic. WMATA uses Procore religiously. Like you said, VDOT is using PlanGrid. MDOT, most of the MDOT TBUs are using something called EMCMS for construction management, and requiring that all the inspectors have iPads. So this kind of thing, that ball was already rolling, and the pandemic just kind of made sure that it's here to stay, right? The other thing was one of my clients, where I used to travel down to Alexandria about 2 or 3 days a week to spend time in their office, visit project sites. And when the pandemic hit and the lockdown hit, that all had to stop. Their office closed down. There was no reason for me to go to an empty office, so I would work from home. The client realized it's probably better if you stay at home. Right? And so now I work remotely all the time there. I think many clients may realize that there are more efficient ways of doing what they expected. I only went there because that's what they wanted, you know. They'll change what they want once they see that, there are different ways to get things done, and they still get done, maybe even more efficiently.
Hmm. Right. I have noticed a change, kind of like what you were saying about the efficiency of being able to click through these meetings.
Right.
I've definitely noticed a change on 66, definitely in the last year, with this precedence that Plan Grid has been pushed, and even in Fredericksburg District, where we're able to utilize this and we're able to visit more areas throughout the day than ever before, just because of the efficiency this platform has created.
Absolutely.
But so do you foresee that the industry's expectations of future leaders, um, do you see that taking a shift, um, due to some of these lessons learned, some requirements, or you know things that companies will look at in hiring and in promoting new leaders?
I think that shift had already started. You guys may remember that just before the pandemic, we switched over to a new network backbone that was more robust and faster and more reliable. It was before anybody knew we were going to shut down, right? And that's because we were already headed that way, and the pandemic just accelerated it. Um, so I think absolutely leaders of the future need to be more technologically savvy. They need to be capable of, being flexible, right? This is something that I think all of you said was a benefit of being working remotely, was that it allowed a lot more flexibility in how you do your work. I think leaders need to be more understanding of that flexibility, and I think they will be moving forward. Yes, we're headed back to the office, but not everyone is going back, not every day, right? And that's okay. We're used to that now. We're going to make that work, and it's working okay, right? We're all doing pretty well. We enjoy the flexibility it gives us. Managers understand, right? Because, I don't want to tell you guys how old I am, but there was a time, when, if you weren't at the office, you weren't working, right? If I can't see you, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? That's changing. And I expect that change will continue and evolve and grow as we kind of get further post pandemic.
It's going to be interesting, to look at the industry in a year or two, and look at these look at the different companies, whether it's based on their location or their contacts, who their clients are. Uh, I'm going to be interested to see if there is a separation between, um, you know, companies that had not pushed forward these new programs and these these tech savvy, backbones, as you call them,
Yeah,
throughout the ranks, and then the companies that are. And I think that, we're going to see this huge separation, and it might, it might be interesting to see, when the state puts out contracts, and who's going to be there, and
sure.
how the acceptance.
I absolutely agree. And maybe it doesn't apply as much to field work because those folks have to be, somewhere in person. But those other roles, potentially, I mean, Sam's a great example. Her project's in Baltimore, her office is in Maryland, she lives in DC, right? There are probably going to be more people like that who live somewhere very remote, even more remote than one city away, but who work full time for ATCS. And, I think all companies should probably think about whether they can do that. It increases the talent pool, it increases the flexibility of the employee. Maybe you can even, get the same work done for something for, at less cost than it would in the state where you work or the city where you work, right? So, I mean, these are things that'll probably change as we move forward, and it'll probably be a good thing, I think.
For sure. Joe, I want to thank you so much for your time. Um, uh, I definitely learned a lot, and
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody else did as well. Um,
I had a great time. Thanks. This is fun.
yes, indeed. And I'm
It's
gonna
not over
kick,
yet.
yeah, I'm gonna kick it back to, Derry, who is gonna close us out on some pretty fun rapid questions.
Yeah, just to kind of, nice little conclusion here. Just kind of go around the horn. So we'll go Sam, Corinne, Sean, Joe, and then myself. So just kind of whatever comes to mind first. So first question is, what is something you never forget when you leave the house?
Mask and extras in case someone else forgets one.
My mask and always my cell phone.
I think it's you, Sean.
Is it me? Oh, I thought it was you, Joe. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I definitely don't forget hand sanitizer. My hands now are, I feel like they're part Germex. So yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. I was going to say the exact same thing. I always grab my mask. I always grab my hand sanitizer, just in case.
Yep. Well, I'll go with baby. So
A baby, one of them.
yeah, make sure we don't forget those. All right, next question. What is your favorite mask design or material?
Mine are either all black or cream because they match all my outfits.
I just have some nice Athleta masks, and they're neutral color, so nothing special.
I would say something that complements my high vis attire that I wear, or like camo because I'm a big hunter. So yeah, one of those two.
So my wife has a bunch of masks and they're all like crazy colors, so they match all her clothes. And all my masks are light gray, right? So like I can tell them apart.
Yeah, we got lots of colors. We got UVA masks and Flyers masks, and we support everything. All right. So third question, what was the one hobby or skill you picked up or developed during the pandemic?
So I've done a lot of puzzles, but at the beginning of the pandemic, when I went to go stay at my parents' house for a while, I broke out my old PlayStation. Definitely had some fun with that for a little bit.
Oh man, that's a good idea. I decided to try to do some Bob Ross paintings. This group has seen the trees I made.
It was great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I thought they were really good. Yeah.
And I only did the trees, and then I stopped because I love
little trees.
Yeah, they were happy trees.
Happy
They had places to live. Yep.
Oh man, I didn't really pick up anything new, but I definitely perfected my ability to catch fish. And all of you know that I'm a huge outdoorsman, and I spent a tremendous amount of time hunting and fishing during the pandemic, and I got a lot better at it. So yeah.
I found that I had a little bit of time to work on model building. So it was a thing that I'd become interested in and then didn't really have time to do. So I pulled those things out and I started messing around with those. Almost like meditating. It's like lots of tiny little pieces that you have to like put together. It was a lot of fun.
Lots of patience. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think I'll fall back on my new divering and bottle skills. I've kind of perfected coordinating feedings and diaper changes between meetings.
Oh.
All right, and then finally the last question, what is the craziest thing that happened while on camera?
For me, I was in a meeting across from a window at my parents' house, and I guess it was a really windy day, and all of a sudden my parents' like big patio umbrella was just flying across my yard. So I was like, oh, I gotta go real quick, be right back, and like ran away and went and got it.
That's scary. I would be freaking out. I don't know. I didn't have anything crazy happen. We have speakers near the TV, and one of them decided to start kind of vibrating. It was like a 7 a.m. meeting, and I didn't know where this was coming from, and it's the bass speaker, so it was on the ground, and I was like, what is making this loud? And it just kept getting bigger. And I thought we were going to explode, basically. I quickly went off camera, mute, and I wasn't talking, so that was nice. And then, I don't know, it's all good now, but it's all good. It was a little scary though.
I would say nothing really crazy happened to me on camera, but I do remember I was stopping in to Popeyes to get lunch one day, and I had misplaced my mask. But luckily, it was turkey season, and I did happen to have my camouflage mask covered in leaves in my truck. And so I wore this leafy camo mask into Popeyes to order food while wearing my vest. Yeah, I would love to have the security footage of that.
What a sight.
What a sight that was.
So this one wasn't that bad, but I was on a call with my CSD managers in Baltimore, and where I live is kind of surrounded by very tall trees, and so lots of things hit the roof all the time. While I was on this call, a particularly large branch hit the roof just above my head, and I ducked off camera and almost ran because I was like, "What is that?" And the guys had a good laugh at that.
That's funny.
That's when you gotta be recording.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know what it is, but wherever I'm in the house working, whenever I have a call or anything that suddenly pops up, my son is just starts making all kinds of noises and burps and cries and everything, and then as soon as I click end, he's silent the rest of the day. So I've had a few times I've had to like switch off the camera, run to a different room, switch it on again, pretend nothing happened.
That's always how it goes. Your dog's barking during the call, and then you're off and they're asleep.
Yep, they just know, yeah. Perfect time. All right. Well, yeah, I just want to say thank you, everyone, for joining us, and thank you to all those listening. I think we all had a great time and learned a lot. Had a good discussion today.
For sure. Joe, thanks again.
And thanks for
Thank
having me,
you.
guys. This was a lot of fun. It was a blast.
That was fun. Bye, everyone.
See y'all.
All right, stay safe.